hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ng public hearing ng Committee on Foreign Relations is hereby called to order on the special immigrant visa applicants from Afghanistan. A request allegedly sent to the Department of Foreign Relations through the embassy in Washington, D.C. We acknowledge online the presence of our good minority leader, Coco Pimentel, as well as counting on the presence, as indicated previously by Senators Jinggoy Estrada, as well as Senator Francis Tolentino, who appears to be on his way to this hearing. With the presence, therefore, of at least one senator, we are past that, the chair declares a quorum and hereby call on the committee secretary, Clea Nava, to acknowledge the presence of our resource persons.
Good afternoon. We would like to acknowledge the presence of Secretary Enrique Manalo from the Department of Foreign Affairs, together with Undersecretary Maria Teresa Lazaro, Bilateral Relations and ASEAN Affairs, Deputy Assistant Secretary Gunter Sales, Deputy Office of American Affairs. From the Armed Forces of the Philippines, we have Colonel Rolando Escalona Jr., Chief Legal Affairs Division. From the Bureau of Immigration, we have Commissioner Norman Tansinco. From the Department of Education, we have Undersecretary Michael Wesley Poa. From the Department of National Defense, we have Secretary Gilbert Chodoro Jr., Undersecretary Angelito De Leon Jr., Lieutenant General Reneo Espino, Assistant Secretary Pablo Lorenzo, Strategic Assessment International Affairs. From the Department of Justice, we have Attorney Dennis Arvin Chan, Chief State Counsel. From the National Bureau of Investigation, NBI, we have Deputy Director Jose Justo Yap, Assistant Director Glenn Ricarte, and Senior Agent Darcy Binayan, Senior Inspector Terence Lamase. From the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, we have Lieutenant General Ricardo De Leon and Mr. Theodore Libardo, Assistant Director General. From the National Security Council, we have Major General Nestor Jerico. From the Philippine National Police, we have Acting Director for Operation Philippine National Police, Brigadier General Leo Francisco. And also we have Police Brigadier General Ronald O. Lee, Deputy Director for Intelligence. Also from the PNP, we have Police Colonel Rainiel Balones. And we would also like to acknowledge the presence of Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez. Additional guest from the AFP, Colonel Maria Cristino O. Basco from the Philippine Air Force. That's all, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much, and most especially to Ambassador Bates Romualdez. What time is it in Washington?
It's 1:12 in the morning.
Okay. Thank you very much. Pinch yourself to stay awake, babes. Senator Estrada wishes to be recognized. He's online already as well. Thank you, and Minority Leader. The agenda for today's public hearing is the proposed temporary housing in the Philippines of special immigrant visa applicants from Afghanistan. The general inquiry on the proposed temporary housing is in accordance with the powers and jurisdiction of the Committee on Foreign Relations under Rule 10, Section 13, Paragraph 18 of the Rules of the Senate in relation to Senate Resolution 5, otherwise known as the Rules of Procedure governing inquiries in aid of legislation. The minority leader is an expert on Senate procedure, and I just wanted to make clear why we are conducting motu proprio a hearing during the period of recess. Given the urgency and the importance of the matter, I feel that we fall squarely under rule aforementioned. So, if I may then call on the Legislative Committee Secretary to administer the oath to the resource persons, unless the minority leader would like to make a comment or Senator Jinggoy would have an opening statement. Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, congratulations and thank you for holding this hearing so that we will get to know more about this issue. So we are doing this in accordance with our rules, and I will just be here to represent the minority and to listen and observe, Madam Chairperson. So thank you.
Thank you, Minority Leader. Senator Estrada, I see you on video. Is there an opening statement, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair, to our chairperson, Senator Imee Marcos, distinguished colleagues in the Senate, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everybody. I laud the chairperson of this committee for bringing the public's attention that this very important subject and for immediately calling for this hearing that we hope will clarify many of our concerns with regard to allowing Afghan nationals into our country at the request of the United States. On the provision of temporary housing for foreign nationals, we are facing a housing backlog of around 6.5 million in our own backyard. Shouldn't we prioritize the needs of our fellow men first? Given our housing backlog and the rise in cost of living, shouldn't our limited resources be focused on taking care of our own? What is the fiscal implication of providing temporary housing to these foreign nationals? Will we be shouldering subsistence costs as well? These are just preliminary questions that I have in mind, Madam Chairperson, and at the appropriate time, I will be asking a few more. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, the chairman of our Defense Committee here in the Senate, Jinggoy Estrada. And with that, we establish the chronological order as we understand it for the concise and orderly narration of facts. In a news article by the Philippine News Agency, Ambassador Romualdez confirmed that the U.S. made a request sometime in October of 2022 for the Philippines to temporarily house the Afghan special immigrant visa applicants. Ambassador Romualdez, you maintained that there was no secret to the U.S. proposal to allow the entry and temporary housing of the nationals from Afghanistan. May we know how the request was made? Was it merely a verbal order, or is there a written request that can be produced for the committee and the public to know?
Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to everyone. Yes, there was a formal request that we received at the embassy, and I hope that we will be able to produce that request. But it was also followed up with us through the State Department whether this is possible for us to consider. And so we immediately sent this request to the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Secretary and I spoke about it briefly, and he said that he was going to have this studied before any action could be taken. But that is what happened when we received this in October last year.
Yes, Secretary Manalo, please. The information, therefore, from Washington, D.C. Embassy is that the DFA actually was in receipt of a formal request. Is that the case?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair.
Good afternoon, Secretary. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yes, in October 22, as relayed by Ambassador Romualdez, we received in a concept note from the U.S. government, a request for the Philippines to allow Afghans formerly employed.
What sort of note, please, Secretary?
Concept note.
Concept note, okay. But it was written, in fact.
Yes, written. And the idea was to allow Afghans formerly employed by the U.S. government and their qualified dependents to temporarily stay in the Philippines to process their SIV applications with the U.S. Embassy in Manila. So we immediately launched informal consultation. We launched consultations with relevant Philippine agencies in order to have to study the concept note and assess the request.
The ambassador says that thereafter the State Department also reiterated the request directly to the DFA. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair. In fact, the Secretary of State directly raised this with me on a few occasions, verbally, and also in a letter, which I'd be happy to provide later. And in fact, President Biden also briefly raised the issue with President Marcos during the visit last May.
This is during the May visit. This is during the May visit, sir. Yes. Thank you. When was the DOJ, the DND, the NSA, perhaps we can go through the list, when were you made aware of the request of the U.S.? We call on the DOJ, please. I think there are several representatives. When were you apprised of the request? Anyone from the DOJ was informed at any point in time? The DND? When were you made aware of the request?
Madam Chair, insofar as our records are concerned, when it was in December of 2022.
Was it from the DFA, from Washington, or from the State Department direct?
DFA, Madam Chair.
From the DFA. Is this a letter?
I will find out, Madam Chair. I would suppose it would have been written merely through meetings, according to Assistant Secretary Lorenzo. Merely through convening of meetings, Madam Chair.
Meetings.
Yes.
The convening of meetings, are these the June meetings? The earlier June meetings? Or is this an earlier occurrence?
No, Your Honor, it was December of last year.
December pa yung meeting?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sige. Okay, paano yung DOJ? Kailan ninyo nabalitaan itong request na to?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I stand corrected.
Yes, sorry.
I was reminded by Secretary Manalo that it was October of last year.
As
that
early as
they
October.
convened. Yes, Madam Chair.
Was that the meeting or referral of the said request? Secretary Manalo, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In fact, it was informal. It was an interagency. And in fact, if I could just read off the agencies who were there.
Yes, if you could, thank you.
Yes, the meeting that we had called for was attended by representatives from, of course, the DFA, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Department of Justice, Department of National Defense, and the National Intelligence Coordinating Council, and the Philippine National Police. This was on October 28th.
So it is correct, therefore, does the DOJ corroborate the same, that you were formally called to a meeting by the DFA on October of last year, together with the rest of the agencies?
We confirm, Madam Chair, that there was such a interagency meeting of which the DOJ was a part of.
Thank you. So does NICA have the same in their records, please?
Madam Chair, as far as NICA is concerned, this was discussed formally last 20th ATC conference, 26th of April 2023. And
So as far as NICA was concerned, you were only told in April?
this was discussed 26th April 20th of the ATC, Anti-Terrorism Council.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you properly.
NICA is the secretariat of the Anti-Terrorism Council, and this was formally discussed before the body, chaired by A.S. Bersamin, and that
When?
was 26th of April 2023.
only in 2023. Hindi kayo kasama dun sa October and December. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, what about the BI? Immigration, please. Kailan kayo nasabihan?
As far as BI is concerned, ma'am, we only attended the June 2, 2023 interagency meeting. It was the first time that our presence was requested.
Right, that's the same as our information. Is there anyone from Muslim Affairs and DepEd? They were similarly called, the ICT, the OST, is that correct? Yes, Attorney Guro.
Yes, Madam Chair. As far as the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, we were only informed also of a notice of a meeting. So we were invited to the June 7 meeting.
Okay, anyone from DepEd?
Good
Kailan kayo
afternoon, Madam Chair.
nakapila?
Kami po, I confirm that we also attended the June 7 meeting, but as far as the records would bear, this came to the attention of the Department of Education back in March 22, 2023, when there was a letter from Director General De Leon asking the Vice President to comment on the subject proposal.
I see. Have you commented?
Yes, ma'am. The Department of Education submitted a comment that was signed by the Vice President last April 20, 2023 to NICA, to Director General De Leon, and I've already also submitted a copy of our comment to the Secretariat for your perusal.
Thank you. Yes, I'm not yet in receipt. I'm sorry I was not able to read it. The NBI, kailan kayo nasabihan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I received a letter last April 20 from the Anti-Terrorism Council where we were required to submit our comments and inputs.
So magkasabay kayo ng NICA?
Yes, ma'am. And then we attended the meeting last June 7
Yeah.
at the Presidential Management Staff.
Magkakapareho kayo.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else, PNP? Nasabihan ba kayo kagad?
Yes, ma'am. For the Philippine National Police, we received an email last October 24, 2022.
I see. And I see Mr. Libardo raising his hand there.
Madam Chair, from the National Security Council, Deputy Director General Nestor Jerico, we received a departmental level from the DFA, from Undersecretary for Civilian Security and Consular Affairs, dated 2 November 2022. And when we replied their departmental letter as of 15 November 2022, Madam Chair.
Okay. Since you were informed through the DFA, but was any of you furnished a copy of the U.S. request? If so, when did you receive said copy of the U.S. request? Secretary Manalo, was there a U.S. request? You said there was. Is that correct? You said that there was a formal request, as a matter of fact?
It was
you said earlier? Is that
it's a
correct?
formal request in the form of a concept note.
Yes. So was the concept note then cascaded to all the relevant agencies like the DND, the DOJ, etc.? Or did you keep it confidential?
Initially, once we got it, we just informed the agencies who I'd mentioned, the DOJ, DND, NICA, Philippine National.
Informed means you told them, but did not provide a copy of the concept letter. Is that correct?
We did. We invited them to a meeting, and in fact, the general consensus.
But he seems to be ignorant of the other resource persons seem to be ignorant of the existence of a concept.
Well,
no?
we did not invite them yet because we didn't know who would exactly be involved. But from our initial assessment, we thought the one.
So the concept note was given to whom, please?
To the
DND lang, DFA lang at DND yan. Yung sa umpisa,
we gave it
yung
to
October.
we gave it to the agencies whom we invited. In fact,
sino-sino po? Because so far, DND
DND
seems to be the only one who've been invited on in
DND,
20.
AFP, PNP.
Come again. Can we start? DND, AFP, PNP,
NICA,
NICA.
and then those were the four we had invited initially.
Okay.
And DOJ.
DOJ. Can these 5 agencies confirm the receipt of said concept note from the United States?
Madam Chair, insofar as our records are concerned, I confirm receipt by our Assistant Secretary for Strategic Assessment and International Affairs on
Thank you very
21
much.
October.
On October.
Yes, ma'am. A letter from the DFA which there to attach a proposal for bilateral cooperation to support the
Okay.
processing of Afghan special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much from the Secretary. DOJ?
We confirm, Madam Chair, that we were also in receipt of the concept note
In October?
in October.
Okay. AFP and PNP as well as NICA. Kanina sinabi niyo, Abril na lang kayo nasabihan. Meron ba? Wala. Kanina kasi, ang pagkasabi, April 26, 2023 was the first notion you had during the meeting of the Anti-Terror Council. Did you receive?
Madam Chair, I will confirm that it was discussed last 26 April, but I was checking on the record that we received a notice from NSA 30 March of 2023.
March 2023. So you never received the U.S. concept note?
It was a letter coming from our NSA, not a concept note.
No concept note. So, there seems to be some discrepancy in the transmission. The three agencies, AFP and PNP, similarly received it later in the day, right?
Ma'am, for the PNP, we received it on October 24, 2022.
Oh, kanina sabi mo Marso na, Abril.
No, ma'am, October 24, 2022.
Oh, okay. Kanina iba kasi. All right, yung AFP.
Good afternoon, ma'am. From the AFP,
Okay.
we received the memo from the DND dated 25 October. So,
Okay.
yes, ma'am. Of 2022.
So DND, but no concept note?
Request for comments lang po, ma'am, ang ni-request sa amin.
No concept. So both the AFP, the PNP, and the NICA, both the AFP and the NICA did not receive the concept note, in fact. That's correct? Because the PNP now says that they actually received it. Pero yung AFP, wala? O baka nakakabit dyan, naka-annex? Baka naka-annex lang yan. Nakakabit. So AFP in fact got it. Yung NICA did not get it. Still, Dick, parang wala.
I'm checking my record,
All right.
Madam Chair.
That's fine. Yes, and we recognize Senator Tolentino. You're encouraged to butt in at any point in time. Is this the usual procedure for requests? Of course, this is not usual business at all. But prior to the resolution filed by myself on June 8th, was there any press release on the part of the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C., the DFA, or any other government agency concerning the request of the United States and the course of action that the government plans to take? The Philippine government plans to take. Nag-anunsyo na kayo, nag-press release, o pinag-usapan na ba to? In any public forum at all?
No, Madam Chair, because we were still consulting and trying to assess the implications of this proposal. So nothing was final in that sense because we were still trying to collate all the views. And if I could just mention that after some consultations with the interagency, it was decided to raise it to a higher level in April. And this was when we went to the Anti-Terrorism Council. That was the one in April. And because we felt it should be now considered at a slightly higher level than the technical working level. Then I think the ATC, if I recall correctly, then recommended it be elevated to cabinet level for further consideration. So we tried to follow all the steps by first consulting all the agencies. And in fact, I could give later a list of the representatives, at least of the October meeting. And in fact, the purpose of that meeting was to discuss the concept note of provided by the United States and to give preliminary observations. And then we proceeded to hold a few more interagency meetings on it to collate the observations of the various agencies. And when we reached the point in April, we had enough of these observations. We decided it's time now to raise it to the higher level, or the ATC, in April, I think.
Thank you. We appreciate your prudence and determination to raise it to as high a level as possible, because until this moment, the terms of the proposal and request of the United States are still shrouded in mystery as far as the public as well as the Senate is concerned. Are you free to share with us some of the terms of said request, even only in the concept note? And we have here Senator Tolentino, I think, who's
Madam Chair,
also...
are we referring to the same IAC created by virtue of EO 163? Is this the same?
Oh, no. That's the old one of President Duterte.
So we have a new one?
No, not yet.
Because this was circa 2022.
Yes.
Nabago na ba yan?
Wala pa. That's
So,
from
iba yun, iba yun.
President Duterte.
I had mentioned the Mr. Senator,
I'm sorry, late.
the ATC, the Anti-Terrorism Council.
Yes,
This-
Senator Tolentino, what we're trying to determine is how the request was made from the United States. And apparently a concept note was provided by Ambassador Romualdez, forwarded to the DFA, reiterated thereafter by the State Department, and thereafter cascaded to a number of agencies. Not all of the agencies thereafter involved, but some of the primary cabinet level ones were already informed. However, in the interest of transparency, are you able to share with us how many Afghan nationals in total the U.S. intends to temporarily house in the Philippines? How many on a per month or a per batch basis would be housed in this country? I think Senator Jinggoy already mentioned our gaping housing gap locally, and the sudden urgency to house aliens and non-nationals suddenly taking primordial concern. Secretary Manalo, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, we have not gone into that kind of detail in our informal consultations with the United States, because they have come back now and again over the past few months to discuss some of the issues involved. All I can say at this point, and I say that because there's really nothing agreed yet, but it seems that there is the possibility, if we were able to have any kind of arrangement, we would be having perhaps a pilot group, maybe a limited number. Now, we haven't even discussed that number yet. To first, we could first see how that pilot group would work, and then we would decide on how to proceed after that. But we have not gone beyond that issue, other than to say we might have a pilot group. But what I can say are the following, and these appear in the concept note and also after further informal talks with the United States. We understand from the U.S. that all Afghans who will be traveling with valid passports and will have already, before they were to arrive, if they were to arrive here, would already have undergone rigorous security vetting and background checks to verify that they have indeed previously worked for the U.S. government, because these will be Afghans who had worked before.